the Utica Zoo.
Hi everyone, my name is Kathleen.
And I'm Kristy.
And today we'd like to introduce you to Widget, our North American porcupine. Now Widget is actually a little bit different from Waylon. He has a very different story here at the zoo. Widget was actually born here at the zoo, and when he was born, Mom actually had a little bit of trouble and kind of didn't give him the care that he needed. So the staff members and the zookeepers actually had to step in and hand feed him and bottle raise him from a very, very young age. So he is very, very used to people. He's very people friendly for that reason, which is why sometimes you might see Widget out and about on the Zoomobile. You might see him here on grounds for some of our bigger events. He's always out and about in the public. And if you have had the chance to meet him, you might have even had the chance to touch him too, which is pretty cool. Now what makes Widget a really unique animal, or what makes porcupines really unique animals, is all of those quills that they have on their bodies. Now Widget on his body at a single time can have about 30,000 quills, which is a ton of quills. Right now we can't really see them because if you take a look, he's got all this hair right on top of him. And usually in the winter months when it's a little bit colder, they have a lot of that fur, a lot of that hair covering them. Oh, he's kind of showing him off a little bit, going right behind Kristy. And those hairs actually help to keep him nice and warm. But in the next couple of weeks, he'll probably be shedding off a lot of that fur, a lot of that hair that he has, and you'll definitely see those quills a little bit better in the spring and the summertime. Now there is a little bit of a myth about porcupines. A lot of the times when I have Widget out, people ask me, is it safe to have him out because he might shoot his quills? But that is actually a myth. Porcupines cannot shoot their quills. Their quills actually do come out, so if you touch them the wrong way, you can get quilled, but they can't actually physically shoot them out. The way that porcupines actually go after other animals, or if an animal's bothering them, they try to protect themselves, is they actually will kind of push up their quills on their back, and if he'll let me do it, I can see if I can show you. He kind of does that. He kind of pushes all the quills up on his backside, and then he kind of walks backwards into whatever predator or whatever animal is coming after him. He also has a ton of quills on his tail, so when an animal or a predator tries to grab a hold of him by their tail, he can actually whip it around and kind of smack them with his tail, and an animal can definitely get quilled. Now, the only place that porcupines really don't have any quills is on their stomach. So if you take a look at his stomach, he actually doesn't have any quills there. And the only animal that's really successful at hunting porcupine, other than people, are fishers. And the fishers actually take advantage of the fact that they don't have any quills on their stomachs and will usually go after them that way. But other than that, they're pretty well protected from other predators and other animals. Now here at the zoo we actually have two different kinds of porcupines, Widget and Oneida, who lives up on our North Trek Trail, our North American porcupines, but we also have Joey and a couple of our African crested porcupines up on exhibit as well. Joey is also an ambassador animal here at the zoo, so you might have seen her here a couple times out and about, but the other ones, they live right up on exhibit, and they look a little bit different than the the American porcupines. The American porcupines are native to our country, to our state, in fact, and these kinds of porcupines, the ones that look a lot like Widget, pretty much only live in Central, South, and North America. Porcupines that look a little bit more like an African porcupine, those guys can live in Africa. There's other species that can live in Europe and Asia, so they come from two very different areas of the world. The American porcupines are very good climbers. If you take a look at his claws, you can see that he's got really, really kind of curved claws, and those help him to climb trees. Whereas our African crested porcupines, they actually pretty much spend their whole lives on the ground. They don't climb at all. So that's one of the key differences between them. They are both herbivores, though. They both enjoy eating fruits and vegetables. In Widget's case, his most favorite treat in the whole world is bananas. Bananas is not something they would normally get here in upstate New York. We don't have a ton of banana trees growing around, but it's kind of like a sometime snack or almost like a dessert for him. It's definitely his favorite thing, but we always have to make sure that we don't give him too much so he doesn't get too chubby on us. The other thing that porcupines need to do, which is really, really interesting, is that porcupines need to keep their teeth healthy, and the way that they do that is by chewing. They're very big chewers. Porcupines are actually a member of the rodent family, so they're in the same family as things like hamsters, gerbils, squirrels, even our beavers here at the zoo are considered a rodent. And rodents have very, very special teeth, and I'll give you a look on our porcupine skull here. You can see that they have very, very kind of almost like orange colored teeth. And the reason why their teeth are colored this way is because they actually have a very special deposit on their teeth that makes them very, very strong. That's really important because animals like beavers and porcupines spend a lot of time chewing on branches, chewing on trees, especially beavers need to break down trees a lot. And in the winter months, these guys don't hibernate. So a lot of the times they have to kind of chew through the outside of the tree to get to the inside of the parts of the tree. And sometimes will need to survive off the inner parts of the tree during the winter months. That being said, sometimes they also can seek shelter in places where we might not always want them. They can sometimes be considered a pest because I've heard many, many stories of porcupines chewing through people's cabins and camps in the winter time. And when you go back to open up your camp in the spring or the summer, you might see that there's some holes or some chew marks there from a porcupine. But because they don't hibernate, because they don't go anywhere, during the winter months, they try to find somewhere to stay warm. Not to mention, chewing is very important for them because not only do they need to chew to kind of keep their teeth healthy, it actually helps them to wear their teeth down because they kind of need to chew in order to keep filing their teeth down. So they constantly are growing. So they really always need to chew. Another thing that porcupines and other kinds of animals like them that are big on chewing is things like antlers. A lot of the times when you go walking in the woods, you don't see antlers hanging around very much, even though we have a lot of deer around. And a lot of the times that's because animals like porcupines are chewing them up. Here at the zoo, we give Widget a lot of fresh branches, a lot of fresh bark and things that he can chew, as well as an antler that he has in his exhibit. So if you ever see antlers inside our porcupines exhibit, that's why. One more thing important to remember about Widget. Now, Widget here is a little bit different from wild porcupines. So if you ever meet a wild porcupine in the wild, they definitely won't be quite as friendly as Widget here. And a lot of the times, the biggest challenge with porcupines or living around areas where porcupines live is with our dogs. A lot of the times, dogs can get quilled by porcupines. And a lot of the times dogs are just very interested in the way that Widget smells. Unfortunately, you guys can't smell him at home, but I can tell you he has a very distinct, kind of not so good smelling smell. And a lot of the times dogs are just very interested in how they smell and kind of go after them. If a porcupine is approached by something, a lot of the times the first thing they'll try to do is get up into a tree where they feel safe. But if they feel like they can't escape, that's when they'll try and use those quills. And sometimes dogs oftentimes get quilled in the face as a result. So it's really important if you ever see a porcupine in your backyard, if you ever are around a porcupine or notice one around your campsite, if you have a dog, give it some time, let the porcupine kind of go on his way before you let the dog out, or even let them out on the leash and walk around with him so that they don't get close to the porcupine. The best thing to do is just kind of let them be on their own, let them be wild. And just to remember, that that's what they're kind of used to doing. When sometimes they chew and they do things, they might be a pest, but that's kind of, they're doing it for a reason. It's important to them to do that. So thanks a lot for stopping by, for joining us for our video today with Widget. Seems like he is just about done. He's putting himself away. He's very well trained. But be sure to check out our website, uticazoo.org/kazoo, for some activities about porcupines that you can do after our video. And be sure to keep checking out our Facebook page and our website for more videos to come. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Bye.